don't worry if I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at the screen where I am, and I can't actually see where the camera is. Okay. Right, my parents are out. I thought I'd film, and then I woke up and my brother's taken my camera. So today I'm going to be doing a review for Transformers Age of Extinction. Now, for a start, I'm going to say that obviously it's a Michael Bay film. Michael Bay films aren't the best. You know, I'm a big fan of the Transformers films. That's what this is going to be based on. Not what I think of it as a film, what I think of it as a Michael Bay film. Because I think that's the only way you're going to get a decent score out of it. And I don't like scoring things badly, it makes me feel bad. Oh, obviously, of course, starting with the good points, of which there are a few actually, all things considered. Number one is the plot. Now, the one thing I've always hated about the other Transformers films is the plot just stops. You get the opening bit, you get the introduction to the family, you get the introduction to everything else, and then there's just action for the rest of the film. And there was a level of that, but the plot constantly progressed throughout the whole film. You've got the meeting of Optimus, the reuniting of the Autobots, the building of Galvatron, the activation of Galvatron, the other things that happen with lockdown and all of that. They're happening towards the end. You got the Dinobots coming in, and it constantly progressed. It wasn't the best plot, it wasn't the most intricate plot, but it constantly progressed, which was, for a Michael Bay film, very, very good. It was a much darker plot. It was obviously filled with the typical Michael Bay humour, the innuendos and all that kind of stuff. But it was a much darker story in terms of what was going on. No More Wit wiki. I can't even remember his name now. Sam, I think it was. His character got so boring. It got to a point where if they did this film with Shia LaBeouf, it would not have worked. It just wouldn't have. They needed to mix it up, and they did. And for that, I give them all the stuff, all the congratulations and whatever that they need. Because putting in Mark Wahlberg and all of those other characters really did just refresh the series. And I think that's another point I've got. Oh yeah, and obviously another thing, having No More Wit wiki means you have the opportunity to have everyone be able to act. Obviously there was Tessa in this one. Even she, to an extent, could act. And that was really good, because you don't have that one character who just can't act, and it ruins the whole film. And that was really good. Everyone could act. Everyone had their part in the film, human-wise. And yeah, it just generally all slotted together because Witwicky and the other stupid characters that he had weren't there. Point number three. The comedic timing was much better in this, I think. In the other films, it was all just joke after joke after joke after joke after joke, and then there was a big explosion, and there was some more jokes. It got boring. It got so boring. And in this one, there was comic timing. There was still joke after joke after joke after joke after joke, from Stanley Tucci especially, but obviously he had enough other stuff going on that his character wasn't lost in the jokes. And yeah, just the timing of it was much better, and that was probably down to the actors, not the writing. That was much better, much more talented cast in this that could pinpoint the best time to say their lines. I mean, you had the guy who plays Sully in Monsters Inc. playing Hound, one of the Autobots, and it all just slotted into place, really. Fourth point, I mentioned it earlier, mixing it up. Mixing up the cast, mixing up the story, adding in new components, new Autobots. No more Nest. And although I liked the characters, the Nest thing was getting boring. It just limited where you could go with the plot. It was all very... There's a problem with the aliens. Nest and the Autobots will get involved. The humans will be saved, and that's the end of it. And getting rid of Nest opened it up. It allowed the plot to go places it couldn't before, which was very, very good. And there was no overbearing reliance on the government. There was the one annoying government official who was in there basically for a laugh, and you could have edited him out and the film probably would have been better. But not having Nest in there meant that the government wasn't heavily involved, and it was a story about this family and the Autobots and the war they were engaged in. Yes, it was CIA that was the main sort of human bad guys, but it wasn't done the same way, if that makes sense. It was done in a way that it wasn't overbearingly in your face. It wasn't about the humans as much. Well, it was about the humans. The humans were very heavily involved, but I'm not really wording this very well. But hopefully you'll understand what I mean. Probably not, but yeah, it's a review of my opinion. So, yeah. Man-made Transformers, mixing it up again with that point. Yeah, it was really well done. The way they've done Galvatron, although it's different to the comics or the cartoons or whatever, obviously it's not the comics or the cartoons, it's their version of the universe. So they'll do it their way. And it worked quite well. You know, this idea that you can have man-made Transformers, they've unlocked the genome. I mean, you can clone humans, so you can clone Transformers. That's pretty much what they did. They cloned Megatron to create Galvatron. And that worked really well. Yeah, it eliminates that tedious battle between the Autobots and the Decepticons, which you expect in a cartoon. I mean, you know, in a cartoon series or in a toy series, that's what it is. But in a film, it gets tedious. You can't have this continuous battle, film after film after film. It just gets boring. So in this film, they mixed it up, because Lockdown's not a Decepticon. So it wasn't a battle of Autobots and Decepticons. It was a battle of Autobots and humans, with Lockdown thrown in the middle as this sort of Transformer-type villain, although I'm not really sure what species he is, because I don't think he's from Cybertron, which is obviously where the Transformers are from. Ethics. Ethics was a big part of this film, because obviously they clone Transformers, and they need DNA to do that, so they use the DNA of dead Transformers. That's a spoiler, sorry. But, you get to see a lot more about how that affects the other Autobots and about how they deal with that, because they've been in hiding for a very, very long time now. And when they find out about this cloning, it's their reaction which really sparks that sort of ethical debate of what makes these things alive. What makes Galvatron alive? Because he's created by humans, but he doesn't have a soul. Because a soul is, for the Autobots, for the Transformers, is their spark, and he doesn't have a spark because he's man-made. That was very well introduced, and they could have gone very, very far with that, but it's in my good points because I need some. Optimus Prime has always had a backstory, but he's never had the backstory, if that makes sense. He's always got this sort of, I'm a Prime, and as a Prime, this is my function, this is what I'm supposed to do, I'm supposed to help the humans, I'm supposed to protect the humans, and blah blah blah. In this film it changes utterly and completely. He becomes very much, he becomes anti-human. He doesn't kill humans, he still has that, but he gets the compelling backstory he needs. He gets this idea that he wasn't born, he was made. A Prime is made, not born. Yeah, he got the beginnings of a very compelling backstory that he's been made, and that Lockdown has come to get him, to take him back to his creators, because for some reason they want him back. And he gets amazing action scenes, he gets to move quick as well, because he's always been very slow, but in this he's not, he's on it, he's moving quickly, he's fighting the bad guys, and he's doing it all like the soldier he was during the war, I suppose, on Cybertron. And you really get to see how he's been scarred by all these things on Earth. And that was very, 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 very good. It's Stanley Tucci. And I've put next to it, need I say more? And really, you don't, because Stanley Tucci is amazing. He's a brilliant actor, and he can make anything amazing. And if I'm honest, if anyone else had played his character, the whole film would have fallen apart. He was the glue that held that film together, that just made it what it was, which is the best film that Michael Bay has ever done in relation to Transformers. It was so good. His character was so good. He had funny one-liners, he had a decent backstory, he had character development, he had all of these things. I mean, he was what Simmons was in the other ones, but because Stanley Tucci was playing him, it just worked much better. And I liked the character much more, because Simmons just got boring, and he was just sort of brought back in because the writer obviously couldn't come up with any new characters, and he obviously still couldn't call him Simmons, so we called him Joshua something else. I don't know, I can only remember his first name. Stanley Tucci, what a man. Point number 8. I'm so going to edit some of this out, I'm caught an hour in. Point number 8 is the soundtrack. I was going to listen to the soundtrack while filming this, but you can't listen and film at the same time. The soundtrack was phenomenal. The soundtrack always is. The soundtrack always probably makes these films as successful as they are. I always say the soundtrack is the soul of a piece. You can have character, you can have all of that, but the soul of a film, the soul of a piece of art comes from the soundtrack. It's the thing that makes you feel. It's the thing that sort of you're welling up, and then you hear the soundtrack and it sends you over the edge. That's how I see a soundtrack. And this was perfect. The soundtrack was perfect. It was different to the other films. There was still little hints of the old stuff in there, but obviously it was all new characters. So it had been totally changed up, and it was very, 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 very good. And it's a great listen, and I'd recommend you go and listen to it because it's phenomenal. Go and do it. Go and do it. Anyway, that's good points, no bad points. Oh yeah, I should also mention the first 3 points are bad points in relation to Michael Bay-isms. The new Autobots. You don't need them. I mean, it didn't make sense to have them there, to be honest. You could have just used some of the old ones, which would have made more sense. Because if at the end of the third one, the Autobots start to get hunted, and Optimus sent a message out to all the Autobots to say to go into hiding because the humans are trying to hunt them. So why did Hound and the other two, and why would they go to Earth? I don't understand that. If they're being hunted, why go to Earth? Why not just stay safely on the moon or something? Because they don't breathe oxygen. Why go to Earth and risk being killed? I mean, yes, when the battle started happening, fair enough, come down and help Optimus, because obviously he's your leader. But until then, just stay out of harm's way. As I did put, how did they get here? But obviously they got here the same way everyone else, all the others did. Through a reused shot of a Autobot crash landing on Earth. This is probably the most screen time Ratchet has ever had. Ratchet has been in all of the films, and in this film he's probably got the most screen time he's ever had. I loved Ratchet. I don't think he ever got justice he deserved as a character. He was the medic, he should have been there, he should have fought well, and in this one he got the most screen time he had, and it's on my bad list because it should have happened earlier. It should have happened way, way, way earlier. Point number 2. Because Michael Bay is rubbish at representation. There's one black person in this that I can remember, and that's a diva woman. It's a big black diva woman, and that's the only black people that Michael Bay's interested in, really. And then obviously you got women as well. Women are really badly represented, and my mum's just come home, and I've got to really hurry this up now. Women obviously badly represented. They're all fit in their 20s and 30s or whatever. Yeah, it's just really badly done. Point number 3, in relation to that, it's cliche characters. There's a guy later on in the film in a lift in Hong Kong, and he knows Kung Fu, because don't all Chinese people? I think they're in China. I don't know, where's Hong Kong? I have a friend, Krissie, who might watch this, who will hate me for saying that. Sorry. Check out her channel, by the way. Anyway, yeah, representation's really badly done. I mean, just because he's Asian doesn't mean he knows Kung Fu. But that also had a woman who kicked ass, which was new, but then she needed saving by this guy who knew Kung Fu, so that was pretty stupid. And then all the rest of these points, 4 to whatever, are just bad points. Lazy CGI. The CGI in this film was just shoddy and bad, and there was a bit with a truck. The people had been edited in, and then there was other things where Bumblebee transformed into the Camaro that he became later on in the film. Two of the characters were inside, and then they looked again and they weren't, and then they were again, and it just didn't make sense. Point number 5, Galvatron. The subplot was pretty good, but why was he there? He wasn't needed, he wasn't a particularly intrinsic part of the plot. If he was that important to you, Michael, put him in the next movie. Don't just make this film about him so you can set up for your next big explosion blockbuster. Why was he there? Just leave him deactivated and then make him become Galvatron in the next film. Oh, God, as an inspiring scriptwriter, it was excruciating to watch that bit. Point number 6, slow motion. There was too much of it. It was all, every time someone got kidnapped or something happened, it was done in slow motion, and then there was a really dramatic shot just so Michael Bay could go, look, I can do slow things. Just stop, Michael Bay. It's number 7, the look. I think this links into something else. Yep, the look. Now the other films, obviously, this is a film series based on toys, on transforming toys. So what you see in the film should be able to be made into toys. I mean, have you seen Optimus and Bumblebee in this? They look like this. Like this. How are you supposed to make a toy out of that? The design, although it looked cool, badly CG'd, but it looked kind of cool. How are you supposed to make toys out of that? I feel really sorry for Hospira or whoever makes the toys, because they really had their work cut out. Finally, point number 8, the Dinobot screen time. In a film where they've done nothing but advertise the Dinobots, you expect there to be lots of Dinobots. There was 4, they were in it for about 4 minutes, and that was it. They were introduced, they did nothing, and that was it. Put them in the next one and give them something to do, and name them as well, because you've got Grimlock and the other ones, and you didn't name them. Again, if you're that desperate, Michael Bay, to put them in your film, put them in the next one, where you can do them justice. My verdict is obviously, good points and bad points added up, 8 out of 16. Halfway point. Which is, from Michael Bay, a film was quite good. If I did it with any of the other films, it'd probably be worse. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of my Transformers Age of Extinction review. I personally liked it. Okay, I know I've gone on about the bad things. I thought it was the best film in the series, and I'd go and watch it again. Yeah, comment below, let me know what you thought about the film, anything you've noticed that I missed. Anything you disagreed with, anything you agreed with, just write it down there. Let me know, I'll get back to you. Looks like I got a lot of editing to do. So I better get to it if I'm going to get this up by tonight. It's going to be a long one. Anyway, yeah, like, subscribe, all of that. And I will see you next time. Bye. What's this? I'm looking at myself doing it, and anyway.